Hi there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to Reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. We're continuing Book 9 of the Ethics today, looking at Chapter 3. So we'll continue and just go right to the text, right there. Chapter 3. But there's a perplexity also concerning whether or not to dissolve friendships with those whom do not remain the same as they were. In other words, the question is, when people, should we keep friendships even if people change? In other words, they don't remain what they were in that sense. Since people are friends with a view to what is either useful or pleasant, it is nothing strange to dissolve the friendship when these no longer exist, right? In other words, if it's only the friendship of the pleasant, the basis of the friendship is the question of pleasure and things, there's nothing strange in this, right? In that sense. For they used to be friends. They used to be friends of these things. When they lose them, it is with good reason that they no longer love each other. Sorry. But someone should level an accusation. But someone could level an accusation if another one who was fond of him on account of utility or pleasure was pretending to be fond of him on account of his character. In other words, there could be an accusation. In other words, if the friendship here is based on the conception of pleasure for pleasure, utility for utility, or pleasure utility, utility pleasure, okay, once they're no longer there, they're there. But what happens if you're pretending to be friends on character, but you were basically getting something benefit, either pleasure or utility, right? But someone could level an accusation if another one was fond of him on account of utility or pleasure, was pretending to be fond of him on account of his character. For as we said in the beginnings, most differences among friends, when the sort of friends they suppose themselves to be is not the same sort of friends they actually are, right? In other words, an accusation happens when the things are equal or things are reciprocal. Then there is on these kind of friendships, on the friendships, utility, and pleasure, and the question of whether the good character that the people that you're doing it, if you enter, if these are what they are, then there's not going to be difficulty. But if I enter it into one thing and the opposite thing has not been agreed to, or not, then that is where the question appears, right? As for at the beginning, the most differences among friends, when the sort of friends they suppose themselves to be, are not the same as the sort of friends they actually are. When someone is deceived, then they assume that he is loved on account of his character, even though the other person does no such things. He should blame himself. In other words, if someone is deceived, then assuming that he's loved on his character, even though the other person does no such thing, he should blame himself. But when he is deceived by the other who is pretending, it is just to accuse the deceiver, and more so to accuse those who are counterfeiting currency, insofar as the wrongdoing concerns a more honorable thing. So, therefore, in other words, insofar as the wrongdoing concerns a more honorable thing, that you're pretending to be my friend of friendship, but you are not. In other words, if I was pretending that, I have no cause to do. But if the other person was doing that, um, so the deceiver is the one who gets them. When someone is deceived, then the assumption is that he was loved on account of his character. In other words, if he's deceived, in other words, so when someone is deceived, they assume that he's loved on account of his character, even though it's not the case. I should blame. But when he's deceived by deceit, in other words, it's wrong when I deceive myself, when I'm the one who's deceived, and I think that you're loving me because of my character, that friendship is based on my character, and it's not. Then that. But it's opposite cases that when they claim that they love me for my character, but really they don't. That is the deception. Okay. It's not the one. He says, even though the other person, he does no such thing, he should blame himself. But when he is deceived by the other who is pretending, it is just to accuse the deceiver, and more so than to accuse those who are counterfeiting money, right? Why? Because this is insofar the wrongdoing concerns a more honorable thing. In other words, the counterfeit money is trying to deceive someone, right? It's interesting that the friend who is trying to counterfeit friendship versus counterfeit money. Counterfeit friendship is more dishonorable than counterfeit money in the sense, insofar as the wrongdoing concerns a more honorable thing, dealing with a more honorable thing. But if someone accepts the other person as good, and that other becomes corrupt or seems so, must he still love him? Or is it not possible, if indeed that everything is lovable, indeed not everything is lovable, but only the good? So some first question: what happens if someone changes? You loved him because he was good, but he became corrupted. Should you still have should the friendship remain? Only what is good, only what. Indeed, not everything is lovable, but only the good. If indeed not everything is lovable, but only the good, right? But what is what is base is neither lovable nor ought to be loved. Okay, I just jumped over. Still love him. It's not possible if indeed if let's repeat the second question, right? Or if it's not possible if indeed not everything is lovable, but only the good, right? For it's not for if or if it's not possible, if indeed not everything is lovable, but only the good. So only the good can be lovable, not everything. For what is base is neither lovable nor ought to be loved, since one must not be a lover of what is based, or make oneself like a base person. And it has been said that like is friendship to like is friend to like. So I cannot. Friendship is a like to like, and therefore how can I like a base? It means I would become base, right? One must then immediately dissolve must one then immediately dissolve the friendship, or should one not do this in every case, but only in the case of those whose corruption is incurable? And as for those who can be set straight, one must come to their aid, as more as regards their character than their property. In other words, the sustenance, sustenance, or their being. Their ousia. The word is ousia. One's substance, or in contrast, one's being. This is the problem. Their property, or their person, their being. Okay, that's what property, their sustenance. Okay, ousia can mean substance, or it can also mean Bartlett and Collins is reading it as sustenance, but you can also read their person, their character than their person, insofar as the former is better and belongs more to friendship, their property, or their character and their property, their being. One is more regards their character than their being, insofar as the former is better and belongs more to friendship. But he who dissolves the friendship in such circumstances would not be held to be doing anything strange. For he was not originally a friend to the person of this sort. In other words, so when it's not possible to rehabilitate someone who has changed, he keeps his distance. So the argument is that, okay, you can't be a friend of the base because if he's corrupted. If he's corrupted, the question is how. Because it is not possible to he says here. What he says here is not possible. Let's go. It is not possible. Indeed, not everything is lovable. Only the good, the bad things we value. We don't love the things we hate or think not good. We love the good. We love the beneficial. We love the useful. We don't love pain. We don't love pain. In other words, this is why this is for he, but he who dissolves in such circumstances would not be held to be doing something strange, because he was not originally a friend to that the kind of person of this character, the new character. So when it's not possible to rehabilitate someone who has changed, you keep your distance. But if one person in the friendship should remain the same while the other becomes more decent, and in fact greatly surpasses him in virtue, ought the latter to treat the former as a friend, or is this impossible? In other words, we're friends, we're both good character, but I become great, or the other person becomes great, surpassing them. In fact, becomes more decent. In fact, surpasses him in virtue, greatly surpasses him in virtue. Can they remain friends? Is this impossible, or is this impossible? And where the difference is great, this impossibility becomes especially clear. For example, in childhood friendships, right? In childhood, this is the point. Childhood friendships, as you get older, you become the age different, the things that held you in common. In other words, it becomes more clear. Childhood friendships, you old, you mature, you become different. You don't have the same, even if it is friendships on character, they become different. You don't longer share the same things, right? For if one person remains a child in this understanding, whereas the other should be a most excellent man in this very respect, how could they be friends if neither are pleased by the same things, nor delight in and are pained by the same things? Or the things they like, the things they do, the things that they do, they don't. In other words, they don't enjoy it, even though that one person's mind is an adult, serious, and the other person's mind stayed the same as a child. This is going to be very difficult. They don't enjoy the same things. They don't share the same interests. They don't have the same values or the same things they like and they dislike. In other words, maybe their tastes have greatly different of what they like, and they no longer have anything in common in this sense. Um, uh, for they will not only find these things in each other, for they will not they will also not find these things in each other, but without such shared pleasures and pains, they would not be friends, since it would be impossible for them to live together. Again, this idea, and this is very interesting, that the pleasures and pains, that living together seems to involve pleasures and pains. There is very interesting. The pleasant, in other words, the pleasant is important for the social in that sense. If it was, there's a pleasant, natural pleasantness in human association. So when there's pain, it's counterproductive to the social, the man's interrelation with each other, the common. Um, so that they don't. In other words, but without shared pleasures and pain, they would not be friends, since it would be impossible for them to live together. But what concerns these matters were spoken of in early discussions in this sense. This idea of pleasure and pains and utility of the pleasant. So back in the other book, in the earlier part when we talked about this, right? Must one then behave no differently towards the fellow, than if he had never been a friend? So should we behave towards them if we just met, or should we forget our past? One ought to remember the life lived together with him, or one ought to rather remember a life lived together with him. And just as we suppose that a person ought to gratify friends more than foreigners, so too he must, on account of their prior friendship, render something to those who were once friends, when its dissolution was not due to massive corruption. In other words, if the person is not massively corrupt, if there's greatness of this great possible thing, right? I'm better than you. I become more than you. We don't share anything in common, or our minds become different. Well, if we've been friends for like our time of friendship, we shouldn't forget the friend. We should honor the things we shared and lived with. We should honor the relationship we had with each other, the friendship we had, and we should give render to them. We should, in other words, on account of the prior relationship, this interconnection, the shared thing, render something to those who were once friends when its dissolution was not due to corruption. In other words, if it's corruption, this person's become bad and base, and they're not savable, they're not redeemable in that sense, then just don't have anything to do with them. But the ones who you had this with, you owe, there is an obligation to them, and that you should render to them that is their due in that sense, that which is their due. You may not get the same pleasures from it that you got before, or and it might not be as comfortable. So you kind of you give them some. You have to that level that it's not okay. You're not getting the same thing. The relationship there's not the same pleasure, and then not the same benefit from it. But you there's an obligation towards it. And that's what he's saying. And that's why it's a more complicated question. And this is how he ends this chapter. If you have any comments or questions, please put them below, and when I see them, I'll respond to them. If you've liked it, please like the video, like it, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. If you it helps the algorithm get the channel more attention in that sense. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Help again, or encourage others to come visit us. If you like the video, share it far and wide. Share it on social media. Share it on your accounts. Again, share it as I said again, far and wide. Encourage your friends to come check the channel out. Check not only what we're doing here now on the Aristotle's Ethics, but also some of the other playlists I've dealt with. Another thing is, you can follow me on social media. The links are below. You want to check me out on these things. Or if you want to know more about me as a researcher and a scholar, check out my research and things like that. You can do so in my academic social media links, which are below the social media links. Or if you want to help contribute to what I do, be a kind of a sponsor in a sense, patronize. We can't. Again, I don't have the beggar's cap here to YouTube. I'm not got big enough or the size enough of contributors and things and views to get the monetization features that we give a gift button, like book for your philosophy. Um, um, you can do so through Subscribestar or Patreon. Those are two other ways. Another thing you can do is, if you want to do it, you can buy one of my books. So this is below my 3 books currently published. They're currently available. You can do so at a bookstore or a local bookstore, or through an online bookseller like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or whatever, so you name it. Or you can buy it from the publisher, which one book, the University Warsaw book, you only can get probably an ebook from them by the publisher currently, because they just ran out of the copies. That's it. Well, next time we'll look at chapter 4. So take care. Ciao, ciao. Bye, bye.